Welcome back to another edition of B4evaKool podcast. My name is Rex45. We got the real Louis Ortega in the building. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing? I still see sunlight in the background, so I don't think you're on the East Coast. How are things, man?
Things are good. Things are good. No, I'm reporting in from the West Coast this week. I'm out here for some work, and then I'm heading up to Laguna Seca for the Motor Macro round this weekend up at Laguna Seca. So it should be a good weekend. See how racers do at the track. I haven't actually been to Laguna Seca in several years, so
Wow.
it's my first trip up there. Actually, it's been a pretty long time since I actually made a in-person visit to Laguna Seca. So it'll be interesting because I haven't been up to Monterey in a long time. I think the last time I went there, I think it was the last time World Superbike raced there.
Oh, wow. Wow. So is it like
So it's been like
nostalgic?
7 years.
Yeah. Is it a little bit of nostalgia for you going back, or are you sitting here like, I can't wait to get back on my flight?
Yeah, no, actually, it's a little bit of nostalgia because I mean, I've been to Laguna Seca a lot of times throughout the years. And every time I go there, like I remember all the racers and riders and races that I've attended there. And, I remember watching, N.Hayden riding there years ago. And, N.Hayden is one of my all time favorites. I mean, obviously he's an American, but even on my race bike, I always raced the number 69.
Okay.
So, in my youth, I looked at N.Hayden as like, one of the best riders we had in the U.S. And then he went over to MotoGP and found a long career in MotoGP as the last American to have a really long career. I know Ben Spies went after him, but I don't think Ben Spies reached the levels of success that N.Hayden reached.
Right.
To
Right.
this, to this, yeah, to this day, like people still speak about N.Hayden.
Right. I was gonna
They
say
definitely.
it seems like also Nikki stayed in MotoGP longer than Ben Spies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he stayed in GP longer. He had a longer career. He had more of a cultural impact.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Ben Spies, his time was cut short in MotoGP due to injury, not due to himself. I mean, the Elbows is an amazing talent. I mean, after Nicky Hayden, he was the next big guy that I followed in the U.S. And I love his riding styles, his aggressive elbows out, riding styles, and one of the first guys to really like scrape elbows on the track and so forth. So he had a whole different style than Nicky Hayden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but as far as like world relevancy, I think Nicky Hayden just made more of a global impact than any other American rider since. Nobody else has done that. I mean, Colin Edwards was close, but Colin Edwards never won on the GP level. He
Right.
did really well, but he never got that top podium.
Yeah, and I think Nikki Hayden like came along at the right time, like that MTV era,
Yeah,
action sports and stuff like that, and motorcycle racing was huge in the U.S. as far as
yeah,
eyes on watching and stuff like that, and it like he just had so many to me iconic moments in MotoGP that just like a lot of riders it's the equivalent of maybe somebody may not know who certain Hispanic football stars and stuff like that. It's
mhm.
like there are people that may not ride motorcycles but they know who Nicky Hayden is. You know what I mean? I mean
Yeah,
he
yeah,
he's the closest thing to like Michael Jordan of motorcycle racing in the U.S. in a sense, because I mean, he has a statue. When he won the title,
so,
his dad on the bike, the flag. You know what I mean? It's iconic.
yeah. No, it's one of those things that's burned in the tapestry of MotoGP. We haven't had an American rider win a championship since, and before Nicky Hayden, we hadn't had an American rider win a championship for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
And so he's our only barometer of success, and he's a great um, ambassador to the sport. He's a guy from somewhat humble beginnings, from a racing family, came up as a dirt track racer. His family still runs a dirt track racing academy in his hometown in Owensboro, Kentucky. They still have a lot of riders that come from that area. that can kind of, you know, say thanks to the Hayden family for getting him on the map. You know, guys like Jake Lewis, a few other guys, dirt track guys like Dallas Daniels, flat track guys like Dallas Daniels. And like a lot of these guys all really owe a lot to the Hayden family and to what, you know, Nikki kind of presented. And, you know, it's an unfortunate loss that we lost Nikki Hayden at such a young age
Yeah.
in the weirdest way that could possibly happen. I was actually in Italy when the accident happened,
No kidding.
and we were supposed to meet Nikki Hayden that weekend while we were in Italy. Like he was kind of do a little Q&A for us at the time, and then while we were at the offices in a meeting, somebody came in and say, "Hey, we just got a report. You know, Nikki Hayden was involved in a bicycle accident of all
Yeah.
things." And yeah, it really was. It was really a huge loss. I think we lost a lot of superstars in a very short period of time
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
Nikki Hayden and Marco Simoncelli. Um, these guys were just, you know, these guys would light up the room,
Yeah.
and
Oh
it's
yeah.
sad. You know, it's sad, dude.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking of some of the other guys in Moto 3 and Moto 2 as well.
Yeah, Louis Salam.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, we've definitely lost a lot of great talent, a lot of young riders with huge futures ahead of them. Like I think we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Louis Salam,
yeah, yeah.
and
I can't believe that.
yeah, and that was like, dude, I can't believe 10 years has gone by so
Yeah,
fast,
yeah.
and to this day, I still can't believe like you know Louis Salam is gone, man. Like he was
Right.
such a great talent. He just you know another guy that lit up the room. If you ever like spoke with him or if you ever seen him get a mic put in his face. Like the dude
Right.
loved to like have fun and talk and just one of those guys. And
So,
um,
do you give Maverick points for having a tattoo
yeah,
on his arm?
you know what, man, I give him and a couple of the other Spanish guys a lot of love because every year on Luis Salam's birthday, everybody shouts him out. Every year on the weekend that we lost Luis Salam, like they remind him every time they go to that track.
Yeah.
They always do like a little bit of a remembrance for Luis Salam. Like he, you know, in the short time he was with us, and in the short time he was in the paddock, he just made so many friends. You know, and not too
Yeah.
many riders make a lot of friends. Like, you know, most writers make a lot of enemies.
Right, right, for sure. We can talk
Um,
about a couple.
for sure. I mean, there's more than a few that, you know, when the cameras are off, somebody wants to punch him in the face.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's crazy. How that accident happened to go back to Nikki Hayden and stuff like that, and you know what he's done for motorcycle racing in the U.S. and globally. Because, like I said, you know, like I watched the race after he had already won and stuff like that. I started following MotoGP in 2015. So before, I mean, I went back and watched the 500cc races, all the stuff they had on MotoGP.com and stuff like that. But like he was an icon, you know. You know, and just and you know he was the Kentucky kid, so it's not like he was from New York City or somewhere flat.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying Kentucky's not flashy, but you know, you know he wasn't a city kid, and he embraced that, and it seems like globally, like everyone embraced that wherever he was racing at in the world.
Yeah, no, they look, you know, again, globally at the time, the way they looked at him and as an American is like, oh, this is like, you know, a country, you know, apple pie American guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was. He was like, you know, if you had to like in the dictionary, if they had a picture of like, hey, show me a picture of an apple pie American guy, like it'd probably be Nikki Hayden there, like waving, like that's
Yeah.
an apple pie American guy. So
Right. And from what I could tell, he embraced it. You know, there's some people, and especially like I now, you know, we're talking to, you know, now, you know, media and how writers carry their business is different than back then. You could have been an a-hole back then and it was okay, but he wasn't. He seemed like he just embraced everyone, and everybody just like enjoyed being around him and stuff like that. I mean, Rossi and all these guys that you wouldn't think maybe might want to, you know, be good friends. He was good friends with like the best of them.
yeah, again, that I think a little bit of that has to do with him, and a little bit has to do with the time that he came into GP. You know, we don't have the success we have as Americans in GP anymore because the transition from a super bike to a MotoGP bike now, you know, it's a chasm. It used to be like there is a possibility to jump from Superbike to MotoGP. There's a chance to world jump from World Superbike to MotoGP. Now the path has completely changed, and Nicky Hayden was one of the last guys to be able to do that direct path to MotoGP from a Superbike and not have to
Right.
make that step in World Superbike. Like he actually went from the US straight to the top racing class and went racing. And if you think about it, everybody else before him, nobody had done that in a long, long time. You know, everybody
Right.
else
Right.
went the path of either BSB or World Superbike and then to MotoGP. And like Nicky Hayden just, just a lot of the things that he did. And then when he got to the paddock, he ingratiated himself to everybody because he didn't show up with a lot of ego. Because yeah, he was a champion here in the US, but he was like, now I'm with the greatest riders in the world. I have to enjoy this moment. I have to sit back and like take a deep breath, take all this in and understand like, hey man, I'm on the track with Danny Pedrosa. I'm on the track with Valentino Rossi and
Yeah.
like these huge names at the time. It was Marco Melandri, it was Tony Elias, it was a killer's alley of racers back then, man. Like it was a murderer's row. Like this dude had to like run the gauntlet. And when he got there, and he killed him with kindness, man. He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, we can't hate this dude. He's too fucking nice. Say something dumb, like so we can hate you a little bit." But no, man, he just was like went about his business, always shaking always shaking fans' hands, always taking pictures, signing autographs, like doing all those things. And he definitely ingratiated himself to Valentino Rossi because after being there for a while, I mean, he beat Rossi for one of the titles
Yeah.
that Rossi thought he had, locked in, and then Rossi lost it to him. And in another scenario, Rossi would have been like, I'm never talking to this guy again. And instead, he's like, hey, how about you come ride with me? I'm going to get you a suit deal with Dainese. So then he left the team he was on because, Rossi was like, hey, if you're going to ride with me, you got to be in the same suit that I'm in. I don't care about
Hmm.
the helmet, but you got to be in the same suit that I'm in. And he was like, all right, cool. And then all of a sudden, like, opened up all these new opportunities for him and everything else.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah,
Pretty.
it's a really interesting story that he has, man. I hope that at some point, the same way they're doing documentaries about Marquez and Rossi and Giacomo Agostini and all these guys, I really would hope someday somebody does a really good documentary on like the Kentucky Kid.
Yeah, I hope so as well because that would be a dope because like being in the community, the racing community, um we get to hear stories from different people and you can kind of piece it together and stuff like that. But for folks that don't get that opportunity, like to be able to see something like this, and we need more after not even after F1, even after that other motorcycle movie came out last year, we need more motorcycle movies in general, but definitely that's one that should be made about Nicky Hayden and we can some of these other riders are in the 500cc days too, because that flag was shining bright for a while.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, MotoGP used to make these like seasonal kind of event movies. Like they have the Kentucky Kid, the Tornado,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
something else. And they haven't done that in a long time. And I'm really hoping that now that this new company owns MotoGP, Liberty Media, I hope Liberty Media does similar to what they've done with F1, is try to engage fans by using documentary style filmmaking to
Right.
kind of ingratiate new fans into what is MotoGP. Because if you don't watch MotoGP, you're not going to wake up one morning at 4 a.m. and be like, "Hey, let me turn on MotoGP." Like you kind of have to like build a fan base, and to build a
Right.
fan base, like what they did with Formula One, like they did that show, they put it on TV, and all of a sudden that show became like the biggest streaming show that was airing at the time. And
Right.
now look at Formula One. I mean, it was already huge, but now it's grown exponentially in other parts of the world. And even in the US, I think it's grown more in the US than anywhere else because we didn't really pay a ton of attention to Formula One
No.
in the US as a market. Now it's like, dude, we've got 3 races in the US for Formula One.
Well, yeah. If I just to finish on the Formula One section, I think over 500,000 people went to Silverstone this past weekend for
Yeah,
F1.
yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Like what?
That's crazy, man.
We were just talking about 200 and something at Aston, thinking like, yo, they blown it out the park, and it's just like, it's a rainy
And
day
it's
in Silverstone, and there's over 500,000 people coming out.
just 500,000 umbrellas out there enjoying the time, man. And Formula One tickets aren't cheaper than MotoGP tickets.
No, no,
They're more
no.
money, and they're still packing in the fans. So again, I think I think yesterday was the day that officially Liberty Media now owns 86% of
I
Dorna MotoGP. I think it was this past week where it like
well,
became official,
yeah,
where it passed the last government's.
oh, got you. Okay, because I heard something about that, and because I know I thought it went in 80% last year, the end of the last season, but maybe just past a area or one of the steps. Because when I heard it the other day, it sounded like they owned 100% of it, not necessarily the 80% when they reported it, but it could just be the media reporting it in a way that
Yeah,
made it seem like
but
they own the whole thing. Because I was just like, oh, okay, they got rid of the other 20% or whatever.
yeah, whatever it is, like they are now officially the majority stakeholder in MotoGP and
Gotcha.
everything that falls under the Dorna umbrella, which
Yeah.
is great because even though they've been actively working with Dorna, like now they can kind of direct Dorna. Now there's like, we're not a majority owner anymore. We're the majority owner.
Yeah.
And we've already started to lay the groundwork of what we want. And now we're just going to keep laying this groundwork. So I look
Right.
forward to see what they're going to do because it's good to change sometimes the blood within a company because blood can get stale, like ideas can get stale, people can get very set in their ways and not look
Yeah.
at new opportunities. And Liberty Media is looking at new opportunities. Hey, the United States has a lot of money. Why aren't we doing more in the United States? Why aren't we doing here? Like there's a lot of expendable. Why aren't we going to more places in South America? Oh,
Right.
well, economically, some of these countries don't spend as much money. That's all right. There's also winning by losing and there's losing by winning. We might lose some money, but we gain a massive amount of fans.
Right. Right. No, I
And
agree.
so
And I agree. And changing, like, looking at Carmelo, I think is his name, right? Carmelo, that
Escalada,
that
yeah,
he's up there. He was long in the tooth. You know what I mean? I
here,
mean, I don't know how often he's checking his Twitter page, a Blue Sky page.
he was long in the tooth when he was long in the tooth, man. I don't even know how the dude is now.
So, no disrespect to him in a sense, but like, you're right. I mean, the attention span where we are for yeah. Listen, man, I'm playing a video game in one monitor. I'm listening to something and watching something. I'm listening to two separate things at once. Like, the focus of just focusing on one thing alone is that doesn't happen anymore. People are doing like 5 to 10 different things at once sometimes, and like
Yeah,
Formula One, I think get that, and the way we're seeing stuff, the way they've been able to get, they may have more celebrities come out than like NBA games. It's just a lot more NBA games, but like when you look at these F1 races, celebrities are coming out from all walks of life. And they're mingling with the crowd and being a part of the crowd, not being ushered off into this private box
yep.
not taking photos with fans. So like that whole interaction, I don't want to say it's normalized being around the celebrities and stuff like that. But as a fan, if you can sit here and they go Vinales or they go so and so, would be really cool.
And I think that this is one of the places where in the past Dorna has not done a great job of retelling the story of the people that are coming to see the events, especially here in the US. I mean, we have our only MotoGP event in Austin. There's a person in the Austin area that has one of the biggest uh, outreaches in the entire US.
Wow.
So you have the potential for someone in the US that can reach hundreds of millions of people in the US. The person lives right there in Austin. You should be actively trying to get that person to the track that weekend when we go to Austin and
Right.
have them interviewing these people, have them interviewing some of the celebrities, have them going firsthand and seeing what MotoGP is. Joe Rogan is in Austin, Texas. Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the US. More people listen to Joe Rogan than listen to all three major news network combined.
Right. That's true.
Why would you
And
not have Joe Rogan at MotoGP meeting with every single rider and trying to get the riders there maybe a week before to sit with Joe Rogan and try to explain to him what MotoGP is? Trying to explain, like, dude, you don't think I would want to see Mark Marquez get interviewed by Joe Rogan so
yeah.
he can explain to so Joe Rogan, maybe because Joe Rogan is going to do his research on Mark
Although
Marquez.
although I would say Dak Shepard though, because he's a F1 and motorcycle guy. He's an actor. He has a podcast as well, but not as
Yeah,
huge
but
as Joe
he
Rogan.
doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have the
Yeah.
Joe Rogan
No,
podcast.
no,
Dude.
no,
Joe
no.
Rogan, but again, and for Joe Rogan, it's not a big. I mean, Dak Shepard is there every weekend at MotoGP anyway.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because he rides the Monday after MotoGP with Aprilia at that track day. Every year on that track day, I see Jack Shepard showing up and riding for the day. But again, man, like these are all opportunities. And maybe it's again because Carmelo Espelada is 80 years old. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
dude doesn't know who Joe Rogan is. This guy maybe doesn't know how YouTube works.
Right,
And
right.
then
Well,
the
and if
seat,
the
the
and
seat.
if the stock is going up to your liking every year, you may not really think like, oh, I mean, I don't know. If I'm fortunate to get to 80, I don't know, but maybe he's happy with the numbers and think things are going really well, right? I mean, obviously they sold, and obviously these changes have happened, so something happened to say, hey, we need new blood in here. But maybe he thought they were doing fine.
I mean, money wise, they were doing fine, but that doesn't mean that you're growing the sport.
Right,
And, over the past few years, we saw attendance going this way.
right,
And now over the last 2 years, we saw the attendance going this way. And this is a combination of a lot of things. One, a new way of marketing MotoGP, trying to outreach outside of the normal customer base. And some of that is the changing of the guard of some of the racers that were racing, the dynamics of the racing, and the slow comeback of Mark Marquez. I mean, a lot of people don't like to give him credit, but Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan left the NBA, there was no Michael Jordan. The NBA viewership went like this. And
right.
then they found new stars, and Michael Jordan came back. We're in the 4-5, and all of a sudden the NBA went like this again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you need superstars. You need to get the superstars in front of the right people that can then let these superstars attract more customers, attract more viewerships. Again, I still don't understand like how does MotoGP not get Joe Rogan, who's already in Austin, Texas.
Right.
Dude, I would literally rent the track with nobody there, and I'd set up the studio in the middle of the start finish line, and I have Joe Rogan interview Mark Marquez right there when nobody else is around.
Yeah, that'll be dope. That definitely would be dope. For sure.
Dorna,
Uh,
call me up. I'm available for marketing and research.
and speaking of, before we talk about what's going on with Dainese, I think that Ducati, like seeing these commercials roll out by Mark Marquez, this is the most commercials I've seen from Mark Marquez since he's been in MotoGP. Maybe it was happening on Spanish networks or over in Europe and stuff like that. But he got the Digi camcorder he's running. He's pushing the
Yep.
V2. He's actively trying to be the face of, I don't know, MotoGP per se, but definitely Ducati.
I mean, this is when you're an alpha predator, kind of like him, you got to do these things that separate you from the guy in the box next to you. I know Pecco Bagnaia has a big fan base and everything, but he doesn't have the fan base Mark Marquez has. He doesn't have the reach that Mark Marquez has. So Ducati needs to capitalize while they have him, and he needs to capitalize while he has them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
Because
I'll say
this
this.
might be for his forever home. After this, this might be his last stop in MotoGP.
Right. My 14-year-old daughter is a Mark Marquez fan. And so there's a bunch of 14, 17 to 4 years old that are like Mark Marquez
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a big pitch
much
from
as
him to
older.
convince me. It's going to take a big pitch from him to convince me to buy another Ducati. But who knows? Maybe one day he'll do the commercial. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to go buy a Ducati.
He gonna sign the Dainese, and then you're like, all right, I got all right, Mark.
Oh, when that happens, then it's mandatory. I got to buy a Ducati.
So yeah, man, let's bring it all full circle and talk about, yeah, for sure, Dainese. How have things been this season so far? You're out in Cali right now, doing some Dainese stuff and going to Laguna Seca. So how things been with the tariffs and just racing in general?
The tariffs have been like the most interesting thing. There's actually two things happening right now in the US that have both happened at the same time this year that have impacted the entire motorcycle industry. And one of them most people have no idea about, and the other one's the tariffs. And so the tariffs are the one that most people know about. We didn't get really heavily impacted by the tariffs because the areas that were most impacted by the tariffs, we don't make products there, or we don't make many products there. Like in China, we make very few products. We produce on the AGV side. There's two helmets that are made in China. All the other helmets are made in our own factory in Vietnam and in our factory in Italy. So we only have two helmets that were necessarily impacted. So overall, our pricing didn't move that much. I think we did like a 5 to 7% increase on a few items because even in the countries where we didn't get 120% tariff, there's still tariffs.
Hmm.
And so we did have to make some small price adjustments, but we calculated them out very early. We try to keep them very small. But unfortunately, it does impact the end consumer, which is kind of weird because normally we base our pricing in other parts of the world on the US pricing, and now we can't.
Wow.
Now we actually have to base uh, our pricing on pre-tariff US pricing. So we actually have a US price, and then we have the US price that we actually charge the rest of the world, which is
Wow.
not the US price because the US price is higher because of the tariffs. And we don't want to penalize other countries, our tariff rate.
There are people in countries in Africa is like, y'all are stealing my motto. I can't I can't have free prices for tourists coming.
Yeah, yeah. But comparatively here in the US, we still have the most competitive price because when you sell that product in Canada, now you have to do an exchange rate for Canada. And the exchange
Right.
rate for Canada right now, compared to the US dollar, is what, like 1.46%.
Wow.
So it's still cheaper to buy it in the US if you're Canadian, come over
Right,
the
right.
border. So it's still comparatively cheaper. It just kind of sucks that we had to like increase some of these prices. We try to keep it as minimal as possible. The bigger issue that we've had this year is California, New York, and New Hampshire. We haven't been able to sell a lot of our products, and a lot of other manufacturers can't either. And that's because of a regulation that California put into place at the beginning of this year, where you can't sell anything that has PFAS, which are chemicals that are like last forever.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
the most common one of those is Gore-Tex. So Gore-Tex has chemical inside of it that once you make it, it can never be unmade. Like it never disintegrates in nature.
So a lot of like pot companies might be losing some money.
I don't know. I don't know if it actually affects Teflon too much because Teflon's a whole other chemical, but
Okay.
it does affect a lot of products because these PFAS products are in tires. These PFAS products are in a lot of different materials. Anything that's waterproof typically has some sort of PFAS in it. So we have been for many years now working on non PFAS or PFAS compliant products,
Gotcha.
and we were planning on putting them into the market. And unfortunately, like not unfortunately, I mean, we're glad that this is happening because we were planning on eliminating it. On the Dainese side, we've actually started to use a lot of recycled cardboards and recycled materials in a lot of our products because we want to be a little bit more, ecologically compliant. If
Right.
we can use recycled cardboard, let's use recycled cardboard. Let's use less plastic. Let's use more natural paper instead of like synthetic type of paper. Let's use it like, we're trying to find ways to be a little bit more environmentally friendly. And we were already working on this, but this kind of, not that it came up um, unannounced, but it's definitely something that came up in a very short period of time.
Right.
So we're making PFAS compliant products. The thing is, we already have non PFAS compliant products in the market, and we have to move them out of these states and sell
Oh,
them in other
okay.
states.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So some of our most popular items we can't sell in California and New York, which are two really big markets. But even losing those two big markets, like we're having a really great year here for all of our products. Dainese is doing great. AGV is doing phenomenal. I mean, AGV helmets in the US in the past 10 years, I mean, the growth has been unreal. And it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, before we purchased the brand kind of bounced around to a lot of different owners, and there wasn't a great fit in the helmet. The quality wasn't always the best quality. Sometimes it had quality issues, fitment issues, the degradation issues, like the helmet would fall apart. And then after we purchased the and brought it back in house and started developing the products in Italy and started producing them ourselves, we were able to really work out all these things, work on what we call an AGV fit, an
Mm-hmm.
AGV fit for the Asian market, an AGV for the US market. We were able to just fix all the little things that we knew were the only problems that the helmet had, because the brand is legendary and the products are great. You just need to get the fit right. And once
Right.
we got the fit to where we wanted it, like now, driving around now, I see so many more AGV helmets than I saw even 5 years ago.
Okay. I might have
And
to get
it's
one
great.
now. Because that was I wanted a AGV helmet as well, and it wasn't fitting my head back in 2013. It wasn't comfortable. Which was interesting. So it's cool to hear that you guys recognize that as an issue, and also dealt with it, because again, I think even for myself, I didn't realize that you guys had to fix that,
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, I'd love to get an AGV helmet, but I didn't get the fit, so I definitely want to look into that now. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah. So overall, the company's doing really good. Sales are great. All of our partners here in the U.S., AGV is distributed by Parts Unlimited, and they're loving the product now because the sales are great.
Hmm.
So that's and when your sales are great,
Then
people love your product. So
yeah.
and then we have some really great. I just saw the new graphics for 2026, and we have some really really nice new graphics across the entire line. So from $250 all the way to $1,800 for the Pista, there's a lot of really nice graphics that are coming down the pipe. And then on the Dainese side, we have a lot of really nice textile new designs, new features. You know, with the change in ownership, also came a change in a little bit of the ideology of the design. And you see it on the AGV sign, where if you look at the last 5 years, we went from a very generic type of helmet design to now a very dynamic type of helmet design. And I can see the progression, especially from the inside, where I'm like, I can see 10 years worth of graphics and I'd be like, hey, wow.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
did we get
yeah.
here? Like this actually looks cool and modern,
Right.
and it's happening on the Dainese side as well. Like next year we're going to introduce a couple of new mesh jackets that are in the right price point, between that 220 to $360 range.
Hmm.
We're introducing a lot of new gloves, we're introducing some new boots, street and track, some new technologies in one of our track boots that's going to make it even more appealing to do like the boot in the suit kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a lot of this is the time of year I get excited because I get to see stuff well ahead of time. But
Yeah.
when I actually see the final products that are going to be put into play, now it's the tangibilization of
Right.
what I've been seeing for like the past 2 years, where it's like, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. Like it takes a long time to develop some of these products because we're our worst critics.
Right. Right.
Like we look at something and somebody else will be like, that looks cool. And then we'll look at it and be like, we can make it better.
Nice.
We can make it better.
Can you make a Ducati Dainese suit that give you more padding on the right leg for the heat shield to help with the heat from the full
I,
exhaust?
I, I can build one for you. I can't make one for Ducati. Ducati doesn't,
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I'll take a non Ducati one, because it's just like, a little bit more insulation on the right leg would be good. The hamstring. just to keep keep some separation from the heat. I definitely
A
thought about
little.
I definitely thought about doing the exhaust heat shield that you can put on your your racing fairings in the bottom. I was like, yeah, I could probably get away with that.
What's there's a Bates Leathers. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do a lot of drag racing leathers.
No, no.
So Bates Leathers is a company that makes a lot of drag racing leathers, and they actually put heat shielding, a lot of heat shielding inside the legs, because when you're drag racing, you're pretty much laying on the motor
Yeah,
in one of
yeah,
these drag bikes. So they put a lot of heat shielding, and you also need to have a very fire retardant suit at a certain level of drag racing. So
yeah.
not only is it leather, but it has a lot of fire retardant material inside of it, so it doesn't burn through. So yeah, we can look into
That's what's up. How have the customer base been so far this year? Do you find that there are first time customers coming in, or a lot of repeat offenders, or a combination?
Well, through our retail stores, we've noticed a lot of new customer, first time customer sales.
Hmm.
We've also started to notice a lot of people coming to the stores, like our turns, our door turns. This is a way that retail stores track people coming in and out of the stores are up significantly. So we've had more people coming into the stores. And even if they didn't buy on their first visit and they just came to visit, they eventually do buy on a visit, because based on the door turns and the overall sales, like our retail stores are definitely seeing a lot of attention, especially in areas where dealers aren't carrying a lot of our products.
Right,
Those customers still want Dainese. And, in the past, the idea was, well, I'll just buy it online. And there's still a lot of online sales, but we're finding that customers buying these particular products like to touch it, feel it, see it, and try it on.
right,
And if they're already in the store and they tried it on and they had a great experience in the store, then I'm just going to buy it here because it's going to be the same price if I buy it online. And back in the day, you would buy it online because you didn't have to pay sales tax.
right,
Now that
right,
you have to pay sales tax when you buy online, like that's kind of become a moot point. If you have it in the store and you deliver the service, now I get instant gratification. I was going to buy it anyway. The price matches online anyway, so I'm just going to buy
right.
it today.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
And online, unfortunately, online is kind of like a self-service. So you don't really have somebody that can instantly answer your questions. You can't try it on. So what we've seen is our stores are actually outperforming online in most cases because, again, and I've said this for years to dealers all over the US and to all the dealers that watch this, if you're not stocking product in your store, don't blame the customer for buying it online. That's your
Right.
fault.
Yeah.
That customer could easily, while sitting on a toilet taking a shit, order that product. But that customer chose to wipe their ass, put their pants on, drive to your store. Because I
Yep.
tell you right now, I've been to dealerships all over the country. There's no dealership next to anything where I'm just going to walk by and walk in. I have
Right,
to
right,
drive to that dealer with the purpose of wanting to buy something.
right,
So I took the time to wipe my ass, put my pants on, drive to your store, walk in your store, and you didn't have shit. And then you're complaining, oh, everybody's buying it online. No, 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 no. It's your fault for not having it in the store or not
right,
having at least some selection that I can choose from in your store. You have nothing in your store. You don't want to invest in the retail side of your store. That's fine. Live off your parts and accessories and motorcycle sales, but you're missing a huge portion of business when you're not doing helmets and apparel.
right. I was
And,
gonna,
and this is what we see.
yeah, I was gonna say it's almost because, and you could tell me how long the stores have been around in the U.S. Because it's not normal for a motorcycle brand to have a store. They're usually part of some other things like the cycle gears, or that's the only thing I can think of outside of going in dealerships. So to have your own unique store, and only selling your product and stuff like that, that's a, I don't want to say big gamble, but that's a bold move.
No, no, it's a big gamble. It's the right word. It's a huge gamble. It's a huge gamble, except for the fact of the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
And it is still a big gamble because, again, we are a corporate store. So we're only going to sell our products. So, We don't have the opportunity when you walk in our store to sell you oil or oil filters or other fast turning small products. Like we're focusing on one thing, but that also makes us unique because we're focusing on one thing. So we
Right.
train all our employees very, very much on our products, but not just our products, on products in general, why we wear these products, what the use of the product is for, how it works, so that when a customer comes in, they feel that experience where almost everybody that works in our stores rides motorcycles.
Right. Right.
So you're talking to other riders. You're not talking to just some guy that we hired or some girl that we hired to just, fill a place in a store. So
So
we already have that community feeling because if you look in front of our store, there's typically at least one or two motorcycles parked all the time there. Why? That's our employees.
got you. And now, do you are you and are you more like on Rodeo Drive store, Ocean Drive store, Newberry Street in Boston, and are you around more of the the Lamborghinis and the fast expensive stuff, or it,
I mean, we have some stores that are in prime locations. Like, for instance, our New York City store, it's New York City, so it's
gotta
it's
be prime?
it's got to be prime like this. Um, but like our first store, we opened it here in Orange County. It was originally the store was our original office.
Okay.
So
Wow.
so we kind of used the front of the store to sell samples and stuff that we didn't need, like stuff that we would bring in to like demonstrate, and then we open up a little storefront to sell these samples.
Yeah.
And then it grew a little bit more because now we were selling samples and leftover inventory from the year before. And then it grew a little bit more and it kind of kept growing and eventually became our first real store. And that store has been there now for 15, 20
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
And from that store we kind of learned a lot of things, good and bad. And overall globally we started opening stores around the world. I mean, we had a store in Vincenza, and we have a store, and now we have stores in like China, we have a store in Japan, we have a
Yeah.
store in Italy and London, and and it's kind of become this global thing where we have stores in like all these major locations. And the main thing is, one, we want to build a sense of community, but we also want to build a sense of, hey, you can come here and you don't have to buy our products. You can just ask. Like, ask us questions. Like, we're going to
Right.
give you very, unbiased answers. Like, if you come in here and like, hey, um, how do you think this fits? Even if it's
Right.
our stuff, we can tell you like, hey, that's a little too loose, that's a little too tight. Next time you're going to buy something, look for these features, look for this, look for that. Well, this armor is good, but in the future, look for this type of armor or look for this
Right.
kind of
Right.
fit. And again, there's not a lot of knowledge that's shared with the consumers. Most of the consumers have to figure it out for themselves,
Right.
and we provide that. So you don't need to buy anything from the store. You can always just come in and ask questions.
Nice. I like the sound of that, and the store factor as I'm listening to you talk and thinking about it now, just globally and stuff like that. The closest thing that comes to mind is like Starbucks and what they're doing, and how they they making coffee like everyone else, but they also doing their little spin on it and making it so much more comfortable for the consumer coming in and stuff like that. And not just a regular store. They got these fancy stores as well that's just doing one-off stuff, and every location is a little bit different and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's not the same experience, not the same things on the menu. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we have stores now that are just outlet stores because
yeah.
we still have a lot of inventory in our warehouse that maybe like carries over a year or two. And we just send it to these stores and we sell it at a deeper discount to the consumers. So these are the outlet stores.
Right.
Then we have
Right.
the flagship stores that have all the newest, latest, and greatest products. So it's a good mix, and we continue to learn, but we still partner with Komodo, which owns Cycle Gear and Revzilla. So in a lot of the Cycle Gear and Revzilla stores, you'll still see a lot of Dainese, AGV, and TCX products. Our core business is still that wholesale business, selling to vendors, selling to distributors, and letting them get as much of our product out to all these dealers as possible. I mean, our goal is the stores is kind of a little bit, I'm not going to say like the Nike idea, because Nike, I think, pulled away too much from wholesalers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have 300 stores across the US. We got 13 stores, man. and we place them strategically in markets where we know that they're underserved by our product. So by bringing our product to these customers, now more of the customers are going to be engaged in getting these products. And maybe that pushes them to go to their local dealer and be like, hey, man, every time I go to buy an AGV, like you never have AGV, you should get AGV. I would buy AGV from you.
Right.
But
Right.
since you don't have it, I drive 2.5 hours to the Dainese store because I know that they have it. So whose fault is that? Is it the dealer? The customer's telling you what they want. You're just choosing not to bring it to your store. And now the customer is going to drive 2.5 hours and have the experience of coming to the store. I mean, we would prefer you had it, but
Right.
if that area is underserved, then we need to serve that area. We can't wait for somebody else to serve that because we know that the customers are there. We know that they want our product.
That's huge, and that's a big initiative for a company like Dainese to do, because there's other manufacturers that are not doing that. And not thinking about the customer that affects. So if dealers aren't putting the stuff in their shops, we got to find it online, and we got to figure out what country I'm in and what size I should be, my fitment should be. And
Yeah.
it's a process if you're not used to that stuff. I mean, I've been fortunate enough now that I've gone through it enough times that you get the hang of it. But definitely, it would have been nice and easy if I had a place I can go to and get fitted and get all my questions answered without having to figure out how to use a tape measure, a tailored tape measure.
And, no, it's again, it's helping us just kind of get that reach to the end consumer and create that relationship. The stores are a great outlet, even for our racers. You know, our racers use the stores all the time to, I need a set of knee pucks today.
Hmm.
They'll run to a store or they'll call a store and say, hey, I need 3 sets of knee pucks. Can you mail them to me? And they'll buy them from the store, and the store will mail them directly, and it'll get there even faster than buying it online. If there's a warranty issue or a crash, they
Right.
can contact the store. The store will tell them how to go about getting the suit ready to send it back to get a crash. They pay for the repairs right through the stores. Like, it's a really convenient thing. And it, like I said, it's still evolving, but it's gotten to the point now that it's become like essential for the overall customer experience. Hey, my zipper pull broke. You can take it to a store. Any of our stores can replace a zipper pull. Hey, my snap broke. Take it to any of our stores. They all have the equipment to take snaps versus mail it to California, wait
Right.
15 days and the whole process. Like, it's becoming a very, very essential part of the business to just
Yeah.
deliver on that premium experience.
Right, without waiting too long or having to ship things too far. That's definitely
Yeah.
that's really ingenious, man. And and it's definitely needed, because, like I said, and we've been talking about on the show for a little bit now. Some of these dealerships are in some remote places, and you show up sometimes and you're looking around, and it's like, am I in the right am I in the right place?
is that is
If it
that
was
a
one thing,
Joe Rocket jacket from '94 still hanging there? Like, what the fuck?
yeah, no, seriously, they haven't dusted in a while, and they might make more money from the service department than they do from parts and sales.
I've always told, and a lot of dealer groups know this. Parts and apparel are two different things, and helmets and apparel are very important revenue stream for a dealer. It's not the biggest revenue stream, but it's an important revenue stream because you can sell helmets and apparel all year round, no matter where you are in the country. You can only sell motorcycles, or the peak of motorcycle selling season is typically from February to right about now, July, August. In July, August, most dealers will tell you they see a significant drop in sales
Really?
because
Wow.
in the minds of most customers, once you hit July 4th, summer's almost over. I don't want to buy a bike now. I'll wait till next year.
I don't
So
think like
you
that.
you don't think like that, but most consumers see July as kind of the end of the summer or the beginning of the end of the
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
And so overall motorcycle sales start to drop in July, but helmets and apparel keep selling. People keep needing jackets, keep needing gloves. Oh, I don't have a winter glove. I don't have a winter jacket. I need to get something when it gets a little cooler because I'm planning on
Right.
riding my bike deep into October or maybe November. So like it's a very important, like I say that in a dealership, it's got three legs and it needs three legs to stay upright. It can't stay upright with just two legs. And you have your motorcycle sales, you have your service, you have your parts and apparel. And
Right.
parts and apparel is only as strong as the second part of it, apparel, because what the margin that you make on apparel is so much more than you make on a motorcycle. You can ask
I
any
got you.
dealer. So if you give me $30,000, I could buy one and a half bikes. And when I sell those one and a half bikes after F&I, after I try to get you on your extended warranty, on your wheel and tire protection, on all that extra, I might make, let's say it's a 30,000 bike. I might, if I'm lucky, I might make 2,700 bucks, maybe
Right.
3,000 bucks. If you give me $30,000 to buy helmets and apparel, I can easily get you back, you know, 12, $15,000.
That's huge. That's huge dealerships. You got to make
Yeah.
some phone calls.
You got to make phone calls, even if you give them stuff at like 10, 15, 20% off, like you get more margin on helmets and apparel and you get more customers. And once customers understand that your dealership does that, like there's a couple of dealerships that do it great.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's people that go to your store not to buy a bike. They literally go there to buy helmets and jackets and gloves and boots and pants and everything else. And
Yeah.
eventually they're going to come in there and they're going to buy oil filters, spark plugs. And when that day comes to buy a bike, they're going to come to your shop to buy the bike as well.
Listen, I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I wish more dealerships would understand if you treat a customer really good, they're probably going to bring you at least 3 to 8 customers. And each
Yeah.
person they bring is probably going to bring you a few because the motorcycle community is very loyal if they like you and
Yep.
and they'll keep
And
coming back. They'll drive. I would drive 24 hours to get to somewhere if you're the best guy for the job, and I like what you're doing. I mean, there's no, there's people ship their stuff all around the world to get people to work on them and so forth. So that's priceless because like I've done that, to some dealers, and you know and I don't think they appreciate or get that, and don't, and I don't feel the love, and I've moved on to other places, and now my friends and I go to those places.
yeah, well, it's, I mean, it's a retail market, so you can never have 100% satisfaction. But
Hmm.
even if you have a 90% satisfaction, that 90% can drive your business for years.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And they're gonna, it's gonna organically grow because they're gonna tell their friends are gonna tell their friends, and it's gonna, you're gonna end up creating your own like little like regional dedicated fan base
Oh,
to
for
your
sure, for
dealership
sure.
only because like, hey, this person said this person says that, our Google ratings are super high. We always have stuff in stock. There's always an option for somebody to come here. And there's only I mean, I've been around the country. On the West Coast, there's a lot of dealers that do it better than most places. But on the East Coast, like there's a handful of dealers that are really, really honed in on that. And the ones that are good at it, I mean, there's dealers that are making millions of dollars just on helmets and apparel, which is, it's not chump change, man, because when you're making millions of dollars on helmets and apparel, your net profit is going to be a lot more than if you sold $1 million worth of motorcycles.
Right, right. And yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I don't, and we'll move on and kind of get out of here after
Yep.
that. But I'll say no, I'm still waiting on a dealership to call me about a bike. And they're like, "We'll call you when they get it when it comes in," and it's already sitting in my
Trinkets.
garage, and I'm just like, I still have yet and got a call say, "Hey, that bike is in that you wanted. You interested?" It's like, I get like there's people that may come in and browse and stuff like that, but you can't make assumptions on people
Nope.
whether they're going to buy something or not buy something. You got to treat them all the same, and the ones that come back, you treat them even better next time.
Yep. In retail, in any kind of retail sale, they always say don't pre-qualify the customer. Don't,
Yeah.
because you don't know what that customer is up to. That customer could have showed up that day in his son's beat up Honda that his son just happened to slam to the ground and has cambered wheels because his Ferrari's in the shop.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
now, you treat this guy like, this guy's on a 1990 Honda with cambered wheels with 5 different paint jobs from all the crashes. He's got no money. And you don't realize like this guy's got more money than you can imagine. Like everybody that comes in, you treat them always the same. Like they're the last customer you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
So treat them great, man.
I
And,
agree, man.
and then this weekend, we're going to go up to Laguna Seca and we're going to watch guys go fast, man.
Nice, nice. And so Dainese will have a tent up and all that, have merch up and stuff, or is it more
we're,
just
No, it's
support?
more of a fan experience. No, we'll have a tent up. We'll have a 20 by 20 inflatable gazebo. We'll have some giveaway items. We'll have a little few promo items to give away. We'll have some suits on display so people can kind of see what the suits look like up close. We're going to work with some of our racers there to just make sure that everything's good, that they're happy with the service this year. So far this year, knock on wood, we've had a pretty good year as far as like the Dainese family of riders.
Mhm.
We've got in stock 1000, we've got the number one and number two riders. So we've got Andrew Lee and Jason Uribe, 1 and 2 on the BMW. In the Kramer Cup, DeMario is leading that. In the Twins Cup, DeMario's leading that. I
Wow.
mean, I think DeMario will be leading a lot of different cups if they let him race more bikes. Um, in the super sport class, Blake Davis is like right there, third in the points, won his first race a few races ago. So
Yeah.
like good for him. And then Bobby Fong in Superbike is hanging in there in the top three. So overall, we have our top three, top four, but overall, we have a really good group of guys racing for us this year. And considering that there's other companies out there with like 15, 16, 17 guys, and we're out there with five, and all five of them are at least in the top 3 or 4 in the class. It's not a bad. It's not bad, dude. If I wanted to, I could put 30 guys in there so I can guarantee I'd be in the top three. But
Right.
to
You
do it
don't
with
need to.
like yeah, to do it with five or
Yeah,
six really quality riders,
it's pretty
I'll
efficient.
stick to that.
So before you get out of here, you're out in Cali for a little bit. Like, what are you eating? You going back to some of your favorite places? Like, what are we eating?
Last night I had Chronic Tacos,
Okay, that's what's up.
which is like one of my when I was out here, I love Chronic Tacos, man. They're just good tacos, man.
Does
Um,
that mean it's infused with something when you're calling it
no,
chronic?
no, no. It's just called Chronic. I mean, I don't believe they have any chronic in them, but that's they might. I mean, the logo does have some chronic on it.
It's like I just woke up
um,
and it was just sitting on my chest. I don't know what happened.
um, there's another place out here, so at some point I'm probably gonna have In and Out
Okay.
because you have to have In and Out at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
once.
yeah. You do.
And the other place that it's not located near me yet is Raising Cane's
Okay.
chicken fingers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, I love their chicken fingers. And you don't get them in many places. So those are really the main three. Other than
Uh,
that, like pretty simple palate.
hey, listen, man.
Uh
As long as it's good eating and you get some good, create some new good memories.
yeah. And Thursday night, if anybody wants to meet up with me, we will be at the Cinemark in Salinas, which is close to Laguna Seca. We'll be there Thursday night to watch Superman. So the
Okay.
Dainese crew will be watching Superman Thursday night before the Laguna Seca round.
There you have it, people. Louis Ortega from Dainese, man. Welcome to. Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll talk soon, man. Peace.
Take care.